Hey everyone, welcome back to Dan's Chess Lounge. The Candidates Tournament is finally here. The time has finally arrived. You have a 14-round tournament. The winner is going to face off against Magnus Carlsen in the World Championship match. Who's going to be the winner? I'm going to give you guys a game of the day, and maybe I'll give you another decisive victory if that happens. Today we have Caruana facing off against Wesley. So this was a decisive victory. I'm not going to tell you who won first. I'll let you see during the video. So if you guys watched my player spotlight, my preview of the Candidates Tournament, you guys will know that Caruana was my pick to win the overall tournament. So I was real keeping a close eye on his game today to see what was going to happen. Here he faced off against Wesley. So another fellow American. Let's see how the game turned out. D4, knight f6, c4, e6. G3, you have a Catalan system. The Catalan system is a positional system, but it has a lot of bite to it if black tries to play a little too aggressively here. Bishop b4. This is an interesting line here. Bishop d2 and bishop e7. The whole point of the bishop b4 move was to misplace white's dark squared bishop. Usually the dark squared bishop fianchettos to b2 in the Catalan system. So if he can get the dark squared bishop to go to d2 instead, then it's going to be a little misplaced. A lot of times after this, though, the bishop will go to f4 and control this diagonal here, but it's just a different system and a different variation. It's seen more on the upper levels, the GM levels, than the club level. Bishop g2, d5, knight f3. The players are just developing here. Castles. They're following good opening principles and fundamentals. I have to point that out because I know not everyone that watches my videos is a super strong player. Even the top players follow the opening principles and fundamentals all throughout the game. C6. This is the closed Catalan right here. The game is usually a little bit more positional in nature than the open Catalans, where black plays D takes C and then tries to hold on to the pawn with b5. Those games can get very, very tactical and explosive because white's light square bishop here will be very, very active. Queen b3, knight b d7, bishop f4. Like we mentioned earlier, it goes to a nice square that's going to control this diagonal here, if allowed. And also, that puts a little cramp into black's position. If you notice, black's position is a little tight. It's a little smothered right now. His pieces are kind of all on top of each other. So he's lacking in space. So where does the queen develop to? Usually the queen would like to go to c7, b6. So the queen does not have a great spot right now to develop. A5 here. See, black's going for some type of queenside expansion to give himself a little bit more space and room. Rook d1. That's going to reinforce the d pawn if pawns start moving out the way in the center. Knight h5 attacks that bishop on f4. Bishop drops all the way back to c1. It wouldn't want to go to d2, blocking the rook, and if it goes to e3, that's just an awkward move there. So back to its starting position, c1. Knight goes back, knight b d2, and you have more queenside expansion here by Wesley. So b5, c5 is played here, b4, queen c2, and a4. Now, if you look at the position, Wesley So is being very aggressive on the queen side, but you have to ask the question, is he doing too much? Is his pawns going to become overextended? Because right now you have these pawns here all by their lonesome, and they're marching down into enemy territory all by themselves. Is he going to be able to protect them if need be? Rook E1. This looks like it's preparing an E pawn push here. E5, central strike. This looks like a pawn sacrifice right here. But let's see what happens here. Knight takes, pawn takes knight, and then the knight goes back to D7. So now Wesley So can grab whichever pawn that he chooses. So it's not, that move was not a pawn sack. It's just he's going to get it back in a delayed manner. Knight F3 protects the pawn here, so he can still grab this pawn right here, or he could play here and try to grab this pawn if he wanted. But he takes the C pawn right away. Bishop takes C. Knight G5. This is threatening checkmate. So G6 is played. G6 weakens his king side though, especially since his dark square bishop is way over here on C5. I mean, if you play G6, you would like to have your bishop right here on G7 to protect the household. Queen B6, threatening the soft F2 square. E4, that also clears the central strike, and it clears the way for the queen to protect the second rank. B3, A takes B, A takes B. Now the rooks are facing off. Queen E2. The bishop hits the queen. Queen goes to F3. Bishop C4 protects this pawn here on D5 in case white wanted to play E takes D. Rook takes, rook takes. And now you have E6 here. Looks like Caruana is starting to tickle black a little bit. D takes E. E takes F. Bishop takes, and then the knight takes a pawn here. Now, what I want to note about this position here is that after this exchange, black's position is not as good as white's. Just because his king side is way more exposed. His king is more exposed. His position is a little looser. You have these pawns here. This isolated pawn right now is by itself. This pawn here is like an isolated pawn. It's by itself. His position is just looser. His king side is a little blown open. So white is definitely better here. Bishop D4. It attacks the B2 pawn, but it's also a defending move because, like I said, black's king side is exposed here. So the bishop would like to retreat back this way, and because white is going to try to attack. The attack is coming. Knight D6. It hits the bishop there on F7. Now here, a good move would be knight F6 here. Knight takes bishop, king takes, queen goes to E2, threatening to invade. But then you have rook A7 here, covering that 7th rank there. The knight covers the E8 square. The rook covers there. So black would be all right. Black would be okay right here. I mean, his king is still exposed, and he's still worse off, but he would be able to fight on and continue the battle. What happened in the game is Wesley So played bishop D5 here. It attacks the queen, right? But the queen just moves to E2, and now the bishops here, the light square bishops, are facing off, and the queen has this battery. It can invade. If the bishop captures, if the bishops are traded off, the queen can invade, and then it's just lights out for black. So knight F8 is played in the game because if the bishops are traded, then at least this E6 square will be covered. And that's what happens. Bishop takes bishop, pawn takes bishop, and now you have queen F3, which hits the pawn, which would be check. So now you have the queen going to A5 and hits this rook, but more importantly, it also protects this pawn here on D5. But now you have rook E7, and Wesley So resigned at this point because it's just too much for him to defend everything. There's no immediate checkmate. There's like no mate in 1 or mate in 2, but his position is just so exposed and open that it's just a slow death, basically. Let's see what would happen if they decided to play on Queen C5 here, because remember the queen has to stay attached to this pawn on D5. Bishop A6. Now what does black do? Now the F file here is opened up for the queen to invade. King will go to H8, queen goes to F7, and at this point here, it's just too tough to defend. Black is totally lost, and this is resignable. So that was a good start for Fabi Caruana. Hopefully Wesley So can rebound in the second round. I might do a video later on the Kramnik and Grischuk game, because it looks like Kramnik has an advantage and he might be able to win that game there. So be on the lookout for that one. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed the game. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time.